My opening question for you is, can your team trust what you say? And when I say, can your team trust what you say, I'm not saying you're not a trustworthy person, but I'm going to ask you, when things are uncertain in your industry, uncertain in your organization, uncertain in the world, and your team asks you for information, do they trust what you say? Now, I can tell you right now, so many leaders are not trustworthy. So I got a second question for you. Which Al Pacino are you? Now, for those of you who don't know who Al Pacino is, I'm just going to say shame on you. But he's one of the greatest actors of our lifetime. He's been in some iconic roles in some iconic movies. And today, I'm going to talk about two of his roles to frame up this whole conversation around, does your team trust you in the midst of uncertainty? Here are the two roles. The first is from The Godfather, where Al Pacino played Michael Corleone. Now, there's a scene in the movie where Kay asked Michael, did he order the hit on Carlo? He gave her a chance to ask him a question and to be able to ask anything, and he would answer it. And he lied to her. She could not trust him because he lied to her about what he did. The second Al Pacino movie, my favorite Al Pacino movie of all time, is Scarface, where he plays the character of Tony Montana. Tony Montana is not a person that you should look to for leadership advice, and neither is Michael Corleone. I'm just going to tell you that now. But I will tell you that there's a line in Scarface that is the cornerstone of what a leader needs to be inside of an organization when things are uncertain. And the line in that movie is that I got one thing in this world. He's really said he got two things, but I'm not going to talk about the second thing. But he says, got two things in this world, my word and something else. And I don't break neither one of them for nobody. So what is Tony Montana saying? That when he tells you that he is going to do something, when he tells you how something is going to happen, when he tells you what the process is going to be, he is going to do everything in his power to deliver on that. His word is his bond. Now, in hip hop, we've grown to know the phraseology, word is bond. That means if I say these words, you can take it to the bank. You can believe that that's what's going to happen, that I believe this to be true, and I'm going to act like it's true. Now, you might be asking, what does Scarface and Tony Montana and Michael Corleone have to do with me as an executive? Well, here's the bottom line. The biggest problem in the organization is not that people don't trust you as a leader. Is that when you don't tell them the truth, be honest and transparent with them in the midst of uncertainty, your credibility is going to go out of the window. And losing credibility is the most dangerous thing that any executive can do. You know, we hear people say phrases like, they playing in our faces, which means we know you're lying. We know you're not telling the truth. Or we know you're not giving all of the information. We know that you're not presenting the facts as they are. And we cannot have successful executives losing credibility in an organization, particularly in this time. If you're a leader, you need as much credibility as you can get and keep as much credibility as you can get. But if you playing the Michael Corleone role, you're going to lose all credibility. But maybe if you're showing up like Scarface, not the bad part of Scarface, but the person who says, I got two things in this world, my word and my intestinal fortitude. I don't break them for anyone, right? And so my context for you is you got to find a way to address the credibility gap that you're setting up in your organization. And you may not believe that you have a credibility gap, but I'm here to tell you that you probably do. And you have not been keeping your word. So the question is, can the people around you trust your word? And I'm going to give you a real life example from a corporate client that I worked with a few years ago because of something big that was going on. This company was going through a major merger. Like literally, it was two behemoth organizations coming together to form one organization. And when those organizations were coming together, the leadership team of the organization literally told all of the employees that this merger is going to be great for the both of us. It's going to be a good way for us to do business, expand our market, meet more customer needs, and become the best provider possible. They were saying all of the good things. And then somebody asked the question, is this going to be a change for us as a workforce? Is anybody going to lose their job? Now, the leadership team foolishly, stupidly, irrationally said, we do not anticipate any changes to any roles or any of the staffing structure. Now, why was this foolish, stupidly, irrationally a thing to say? Because just think about any organization that might be two separate organizations are coming to one. Let's say it's two hospitals. You got Hospital A that has a cancer center, a heart center, and an ambulatory tower, and a children's hospital. They're doing their thing over here on the left. Then you got a hospital on the other side of town who also has a cancer center, has a heart center, an ambulatory tower, and they don't have a children's hospital, but they're doing what they do, on the right side. So let's just imagine you got two hospitals doing their thing. Two hospitals, separate, equal, serving their patients. But then all of a sudden they announce that we're going to merge and go from being one hospital system, from two separate hospital systems to one hospital system. Okay, now think about it. You got two heart centers. You got two cancer centers. You got two ambulatory towers. And you got one children's hospital. So, of course, nobody in the children's hospital is going to lose their job because there's only one game in town with them. There's no other children's hospital. It's just them. But guess what? You got an ambulatory tower. Now you got two. You got two cancer centers. You got two heart centers. And yes, there are patients that need to be their needs met on both sides of town, but there can't be but one chief of the hospital. There can't be one director of the cancer center. So somebody is going to lose their job. There is some duplicated services that are happening right there. So here's my point. The problem with most organizations is that a merger gets announced and then people are left to their own devices to think about what this is going to mean for me, what this is going to mean for my team. I know those people over there, they better than us. So are they going to keep me around because, I do the same job? Is there going to be any loyalty to me? People start to tell themselves the own story. They make it up in their heads if a leader doesn't communicate the story. So the mistake in this client example that I was giving you is that they said there wouldn't be any material changes. And then people started to see very clearly that whole divisions were going away. So they started having these meetings, early morning meetings, that only certain leaders were invited to. And then there started to be the changes in the organizational chart, that the intranet started to change what the org chart looked like, and people's names were being removed. So everybody was seeing that change was happening. But you as a leader told them that you didn't anticipate any material change to people's roles. But people are seeing it. And more than anything else, you're losing credibility in real time because you told them nothing was going to change, but they can see with their own eyes that changes are happening. They don't even have to see the changes happen. They can just do some observational analysis and say, you know what? We both do the same work. So how am I going to keep doing the same work if somebody else is doing the same thing and it's going to work for the company? You don't keep credibility when you're not transparent with people and tell them what you know. Then the second mistake that I've seen leaders do in this same circumstance is that you host a town hall meeting and you allow people to ask questions. And they raising their hands, hey, listen, I got a question about X, Y, and Z. And then you as a leader say, well, we don't have any answers for you right now, but we'll give you an update on that on Friday. And it's Monday that you're saying this. We'll give an update to you by Friday. But then Friday comes, you don't give an update. The next Friday comes, you still ain't gave an update. So you know what your people are hearing from you? You lied to us. You told us that you would give us an update on Friday, but you didn't give the update on Friday. You didn't give it the next Friday. Now, why is that a problem? Because you as a leader said, well, I didn't have any new information to share, so I didn't share anything. There was no point in me sending out an email telling them I didn't have any information. Well, that's wrong. That is the whole point. If you tell people that you were going to give them an update on Friday, you need to give them an update on Friday. Because if you don't give them an update on Friday, they're going to assume that you got something to hide because you told us that you would give us an update on Friday, but you did not give an update. That means you're hiding something, that you're lying about something, that you are making up something, that you're trying to fix it before you have to share it with us, rather than telling us the truth. That Friday update that never comes is the biggest mistake that you can make as an executive. You can't just assume that people are going to be patient when they don't know what's going on next. So if you tell them you're going to give them an update on Friday, give them an update. Because otherwise they're thinking you didn't do what you said that you were going to do. And nobody trusts a leader that won't do what they say that they're going to do. Now, here's a third example that I want to give you in this circumstance. Is you ever been in a meeting and there's some uncertainty about some stuff going on? And so the senior leader wants to give everybody an update around where we are. And they spend 5 minutes using big words and talking in a circle that clearly don't mean nothing to you. That they're like they're just saying, they're filling the air with words to sound smart, to sound informed, to sound like they're telling you something that you know, but in reality, they ain't said nothing. They're talking loud and haven't said anything. That's a leader that pretends to know, but really don't know. And they feel like it's better for me to have something to say, to just get out here and say something because I told them I would say something. No. If you don't have an answer, just say, I don't know. Just say, I don't know. And that's the biggest challenge with so many leaders in organizations today, is that they're losing trust because they try to make things up or say things that they really don't know. That's a foolish mistake that people make. And then the fourth one, I'll give you a fourth one, an example of the mistakes that leaders make that cost them credibility, that people can't trust your word and don't believe you in uncertain times, is when you make inconsistent decisions, which is you tell them that we're not making any substantive changes to the HR structure in the organization. But then 90 days later, you announce we're going to a whole new system, or we won't be using that program anymore. That's an inconsistent decision. You tell them nothing's going to change, then all of a sudden you change something. That's bad form. It's inappropriate form. So I'm going to go back to what I started with. Are you Scarface, Tony Montana? Are you Michael Corleone in The Godfather? Michael Corleone couldn't be trusted because he was a liar. He willfully lied. But in this circumstance, you may not be willfully lying, but you are in effect lying to your team when you tell them that nothing is going to change. You're going to give them an update on Friday, and you pretend to know stuff that you don't know, and you change your decision-making. You're a liar. Or on the other side of the ledger, are you going to be like Mr. Scarface, Tony Montana, who literally says, I don't break my word for anybody. You can take it to the bank. If I say something, I'm going to do it. If I tell you something, it's a fact. If I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. If things are going to go this way, I'm going to do everything in my power to make them go that way. Now, I don't want you to be what Tony Montana was in the movie, but I want you to be a leader that when we hear from you, we know that your word is your bond, that we can take it to the bank, that your team can take it to the bank, that if you say something, they believe it to be true. But if it becomes something else, that you're going to explain to them why. You did everything in your power to make it true, but circumstances change. Now, why am I sharing all of this? Because we're in a permanent state of uncertainty in the business environment. If you work in the healthcare industry, there's monumental amounts of uncertainty. If you work in any industry where artificial intelligence could become a disruptor, you're in an uncertain environment. And we're in a landscape where we have so many mergers and acquisitions happening in real time all around us that your employees, the people that you lead, are uncertain. And so I'm going to give you the 3 things that you need to do in the midst of all of this uncertainty to make sure that you don't become the leader that people don't trust when things are afoot and things are changing. The first thing you need to do is you need to always tell them the truth. If the truth means this merger might mean that somebody is going to be moved into a new position or maybe be offered an opportunity to lead the organization, it's okay to say that. Be factual and truthful. But if you just don't know at this point, say the words, I don't know yet. That's the first thing. Be truthful. The second thing is to be consistent. If you tell people something is going to happen on Friday, then give them an update on Friday no matter what. Like I remember this, and I'm getting off track a little bit, but I'm going to give you this example. Do you remember the DC sniper where this crazy gentleman was literally shooting people from the trunk of a car through a little hole, killing people, a serial killer style, up and down I-95 in the Baltimore, DC metro area, the DMV? He was doing that. And the sheriff, who became famous on TV trying to solve this case, was a pillar of consistency because he consistently said, we will give you an update on what's going on. And they routinely kept the schedule that he always held the press conference at the same place, same time, same day to give people an update. His Friday always came. But my question for you as a leader, are you consistent with giving updates when things change? The third thing, always remember that your word is your bond. Your word is your bond. That people will take that to the bank. Whatever you say, they're going to take it to the bank, especially for senior most leaders in an organization. They're going to take it to the bank. And so I will say this to you, in the midst of uncertainty, you got to learn how to talk with transparency. Matter of fact, I delivered this in my keynote to audiences. I have a keynote presentation called Leading Through Uncertainty. And I talk a little bit about a Nas song and a Nas lyric. And you should know now that Nas is one of my favorite rappers of all time. And he has a song called Hate Me Now. Okay. And there's a lyric in that song that symbolizes what you need to be thinking about as a leader. And here's the lyric. People fear what they don't understand, hate what they can't conquer. I guess that's just a theory of man. So the point of the first half of that bar is people fear what they don't understand. People don't understand all of the changes that are happening with AI. They don't understand all of the changes that are happening in healthcare. They don't understand why gas prices are so high. They don't understand why it's harder for goods and services. They don't understand what these tariffs mean. They don't understand most of the policy decisions that are coming out of the Trump administration. And that brings a level of uncertainty. People fear what they don't understand. And your job as a leader is to not to feed that fear, but to minimize that fear. You minimize the fear of the unknown by doing those three things. Number one, always tell the truth. Number two, be consistent with your teams. Be consistent with what you say you're going to do. And thirdly, always remember that your word is your bond. And like Tony Montana, you should never break your word for anybody. That's what we expect out of leaders. That's what your team is looking for. And if you can't give that to them, then maybe you don't deserve to lead. So I want to thank you for watching this episode of Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. I'll see you next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Everybody have a great day.